Welcome to Understanding the Unhoused. My name is Joshua. Through a series of interviews with individuals who are experiencing homelessness, my intention with this podcast is to increase compassion and empathy for the unhoused. Though the terms homeless and unhoused can be used interchangeably, I prefer unhoused because it emphasizes that the problem is a lack of affordable housing rather than a personal weakness. When people see an unhoused individual, they can feel fear, anger, apathy, sometimes all three. My hope is after hearing their stories, hearing what it's like for them on a day-to-day basis, it will make it clearer that these are just people. People who, through a combination of bad luck, bad choices, and, let's be honest, a broken system, have found themselves without a roof over their heads. Okay, enough ado. I first met Tammy when a friend introduced us. I let her know what I'm doing with my podcast, and she was willing to talk to me about the work that she's doing to try and bring an end to homelessness. This is the first interview I've done with anybody in the homeless services industry, and the journey that Tammy has taken to get to where she is today is, I hope, inspiring to folks that are listening. She was also the first interview I've ever done inside, so there's occasional background noise. Please excuse. Tammy has done a lot to change her situation, and I hope folks that listen to this can feel inspired to do the same for their lives. Please enjoy the interview. Tammy, tell me, how did you get started in this industry?
I was referred in by a current staff who thought I would be good for the position since I had come from the same areas that a lot of our participants come from.
Okay. And when do you think was the first time you realized you wanted to have a job where you actually helped people?
I think after I got into full swing here is when I realized this is what I really like to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like to work with people. I did a lot of customer service, property management stuff, but working with people was, and connecting with folks who had similar experiences,
mm-hmm.
and showing them that there is a way to come out of it.
So talk about that. What can you give your history? What is your experience in this?
So I currently have 19 years clean. From coming from doing drugs and not caring who I got them from, literally, or where I was at doing them, whether I had a home or not, with kids, to going to county and then realizing I can't do this. I'm going to die out there, and I don't want to die. I don't want to leave my kids. So I made a choice. It was a hard choice, but
I can imagine.
I went into a shelter. I got connected with Narcotics Anonymous.
Okay.
Clung on to that for a lot of years. I had a sponsor, had a support group,
Mm-hmm.
did service, worked with a wide variety of folks. Sometimes years don't match recovery, but
Sure.
That's okay. To each their own, they're trying.
Mm-hmm.
So, getting back into the workforce, I was just doing data entry, and, some things got flipped, business got sold, and the new owners said, "Oh, well, you have a background in accounting." And I said, "Yeah, but I also have a criminal background in forgery."
Mm-hmm.
And
wow.
they said, "But is that who you are today?" And I said, "Absolutely not." And they said, "Okay, then we don't care."
Wow.
And were willing to take that chance on me.
Wow.
And I believe I made them proud. I turned their ledgers from a 64% deficit of receivables to
Yeesh.
a 3% deficit. To the point where I earned the nickname Nash from Nash Bridges, the detective, because I would go.
Don Johnson.
I would find the money, and I would get these folks to pay their bills. So
Nice.
So that was fun. They ended up going out of business. So I turned to property manager, where I was living, the property manager was retiring, and we were close, and she
Oh.
said, here you go. So the day I left that job was the day I started that job, and
Wow.
it kind of worked out. Hence, it kept me going in a positive forward motion. And so, one thing led to another, and jobs change, and needing to earn more income because prices and things were going up. I landed at the position helping folks locate, obtain, and maintain housing.
That's fantastic.
In a safe way. So 19 years in, now I think I've worked my way up to my position.
Yeah.
And hopefully showing other folks that just because you were down on your luck at one point in time and making some poor choices, that's not who you have to be.
Sure. You can make changes.
Absolutely. So all three of my kids now have kids and homes and
nice.
Grandkids. Oldest one just turned 18.
Wow.
And the youngest one just turned 4, and not one of them have ever seen me any kind of intoxicated high or nothing. So
wow, that's
they've
awesome.
Watched me battle through illnesses and come out on the other side. And
so if we could go all the way back, how did you first become unhoused?
So I've always kind of struggled with fitting in. Where I was living at the time, neighbors were all, partying, having fun, and I wasn't that one. I didn't really party, and so I was like, I wanted to fit in, so then I started partying, and monies went here when it should have went there, and and one thing leads to another, and poof, no more home.
Wow.
So then you're bouncing around here and there, and from bouncing and struggling and using, it just never seemed to line up. And I kept telling myself, if I just had a place to live, things would fall in line. Things just would fall in line. So then I was like, okay. So I put myself into school, got a scholarship, for housing. I got housing, and then I was on a wait list for Section 8, and I got that. And I had been clean for, a couple years, and then it just creeped back into my world. And
oh no.
I went to jail, lost my housing, and lost everything again. And
wow. So you got out of it, and then unfortunately went back in.
Yeah, went back into it.
Do you think jail was what made you feel like, or what led to the actual unhoused, like, because you came out and didn't?
Yeah, because I didn't do what I should have done when I got locked up, which was contact the Section 8 office and had somebody maintain my unit while I was gone, because I wasn't going to be gone longer than allowed from the unit. But I didn't do my part.
Right.
I just didn't. So,
I mean, did you even know that was something you could do at the time?
No.
Exactly.
See, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about all the resources out there, and I didn't know about Narcotics Anonymous back then. I didn't know a lot. I didn't know a lot. Even when I got out of jail and got into the shelter, I still didn't know about all the resources that are available. So I think that's a big thing is, if I had known about some of these resources, I feel like I would have been a little bit further in life than I am now. I mean, I'm in a good place. I mean, it's not perfect.
Sure.
By no means not perfect. However, I'm in a good place. I have a home, I have a car, both are in my name. all my bills are in my name. I don't know if that's a good thing. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good. All my bills are in my name. My paycheck is, sufficient for my portion of the household bills, with a little bit left over. Now, living in the Bay Area is, I don't know if I'd be able to sustain my way of living if I was on my own. Right. But thankfully my partner has, sufficient income, so the combined we're comfortable.
In this role, do you find your job rewarding? What level did you start at now that you've gotten up here? So you said you started helping people with housing navigation?
The housing specialist is the job title was. So it was reaching out to landlords, discussing different types of leasing, talking them into working with us, making sure that all the documents were signed, they were legally binding, and then for the particular program I was in, it was maintaining as a landlord.
Okay.
Making sure that they were following terms of the lease. The unit was past housing quality standards that HUD has set. So along the journey, I've also been certified as a HUD inspector.
Okay.
Not an official certification, but I took the class, passed the class, and just didn't get the certified part done. But and just making sure that they understand that things may seem bad, they're down, but it's choices. And what choices are we going to make to go in a better direction? They say, nothing changes if nothing changes. And you're not going to be done until you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. These little cliches, and they ring true, because if you're just comfortable in the muck that you have set yourself in, you're going to stay there. So sometimes I would try to make it uncomfortable muck for some folks, hoping that they would push themselves just a little, and there's been a couple that actually got sober.
Okay.
They've had their little slip-ups, but from my understanding are doing much better now. So I mean, my thing is, if you can help one, you've helped.
Yeah.
Something. So I was happy for them.
Good. Would you say that you find the role that you currently have rewarding?
Yes, because now I have a little bit more control over the situations. And instead of having to wait 2 days for a reply for something that needs to happen, now I can make it happen.
Nice. Nice.
I've been referred to as the fixer, as the miracle worker.
Wow.
And it over here, and it's not that I'm a miracle worker or fixer. It's just I see something that needs to get done, and I get it done.
Nice.
I just do my job. And they pay me to do a service, provide a service, to do a job, and that's what I come here to do. So I do it to the best of my ability, and I treat folks the way I would want to be treated.
That's important.
Everybody says, "Oh, you have to talk to them a certain type of way," and I said, no, because if somebody was to talk to me at a level higher than what I felt I was at, I would think they were talking down to me. So because I understand that, I try to meet folks where they're at to a degree, and then help them up to where we want them to be.
Right.
In discussions, not just automatically come through, when they're down lower and not quite understanding. I try to break it down in a more understandable way.
That's good.
So I think that's why I was able to relate to folks a lot more.
Do you feel the programs that are in place, considering your direct interaction with a lot of them, do you feel that they are enough to eventually fix this, to address this problem of homelessness?
No. And I say that because there's not enough in place to help folks learn how to live inside again. We take them from encampment, put them in a hotel temporarily, which, helps get them reacquainted with inside. However, it doesn't reacquaint them with responsibilities of being inside.
Yep.
It doesn't address the collecting issues. It doesn't address necessarily the hygienic issues, the sanitary issues of your unit, and so then units end up looking like the encampment, and it's really hard to see.
I can imagine.
Because they're so, some folks are so comfortable in that because that's all they've known for so many years, that they bring it inside with them, and then the landlords don't want them there, and then they don't want to work with anybody else, and it, sometimes it can ruin a relationship.
Sure.
And then funding to get it cleaned up isn't always readily available.
Is there money for that specifically that is out there?
There are some funds that are sometimes available. But with the amount of it that we see, it's not enough. I mean, I think they should initiate a program of funding just for that. We've had units that were so trashed, tens of thousands of dollars to fix.
Wow.
And and the burden is on the landlord. Now, does that landlord ever want to work with us again? Exactly. I don't know that I would. Right. Because we're not paying for it. Yes, there's insurance, building insurance. However, it's not all covered depending on what caused the damage. So, it gets hard trying to keep that relationship positive with the population we work with when they've had those types of experiences.
Sure. So what do you feel should be added to that could help people more?
Specific funding set aside just for re-entry into your own responsibilities, or however you word it, but paying bills on time, keeping your unit sanitary. Doesn't even necessarily have to be clean. Hell, my house isn't as clean as it should be, but it's sanitary. And then funding that would help mitigate the costs of clearing out the clutter and starting over for somebody, so they don't have to leave their unit. Services that specialize in those types of areas, even because as a housing department, we can't just go in somebody's unit and say, hey, clean it up. You're just a housing person. But,
right.
We see it, and then we have to try to work with the landlord and say, hey, we're working on it. And the providers are doing the best they can to help folks understand. But, when there's a housing first motto, sometimes those areas fall short.
So the priority of getting people into housing and then worrying about everything else, you feel like that's...
I think it needs to have a little bit more balance.
Sure, okay.
Because even for me, like I was saying, as long as I had somewhere to go, everything else would fall in line. And it happened once I got back into a unit, everything started falling in line, but I had the drive to do it.
Right, exactly.
So you can't just teach somebody how to have that drive, but showing them how to have the drive, I know requiring folks to participate in certain things is, not what it is, but I think there should be more of that, because there's people who just are so appreciative and so happy to get what they have, but they don't know how to take care of it and need just that extra bit of help. But because they're so self-sufficient, they're not checked on enough. Or on the reverse side, there's folks that don't necessarily care enough and take advantage of it and then just burn out, and there's no consequences.
I mean, the consequence was that they have
to be houseless
again. Yeah.
However, a lot of those folks get rehoused.
Wow.
Into a whole new unit to do the whole thing over again.
Wow.
So that's 2 landlords now that have been, upset.
Sure.
So, I think there just needs to be more program stuff in place. More re-entry stuff. Taking a class even on, I don't want to say janitorial stuff, but on how to clean.
On hygiene and cleanliness.
Yes,
yeah.
Just keep your counters clean. I've written up a congratulations on your new home. Here are some tips and reminders.
Nice.
That I now have staff hand out when they're doing lease signings. It's remember to not leave food on the counters. Remember to do your dishes each night. Take your trash out. Sweep the floor at least twice a week. Don't put anything in your toilet that's not supposed to be in there.
Yeah.
Not even baby wipes.
Right.
Even the flushable ones you shouldn't really be flushing. If you have ESA animals, make sure you're cleaning the kitty litter box daily, or
sure.
You're cleaning up after your pup when you take them for a walk and they potty in the courtyard area. Just little reminders like that some folks just don't think about, so
sure.
It doesn't get done. And I think that would, more of that would go a long way to helping people sustain successful housing.
To actually stay in
Yeah.
housing. Yeah. Can you talk about a success that you had? Firsthand, you worked with a person, you saw them turn things around, stay housed.
Yes, we had a participant who was a raging alcoholic. And he, at one point, they stopped his subsidy temporarily just so he could, get a wake-up call. But eventually he was rehoused, but he kept drinking and causing issues. And
Wow.
I was the housing specialist, and the provider at the time, she was great. And he would be out around the building sleeping in bushes even though he had a home. And
Interesting.
he walked up on us drunk as a skunk one morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, okay, I got to work early, so I'm kind of on my personal time. So, I made sure my work badge wasn't on. It was personal time, and I gave it to him like I would give a sponsee.
Wow.
And
okay.
I think that struck him home a little bit.
Nice.
But between me and the provider that was here at the time, he ended up getting his stuff together. He got ATVs, got a vehicle, got back in touch with his son in another state, so he was traveling to see him, and he's been successful in his housing for the last 5 years. And
that's fantastic.
Now he's getting an upgraded unit. He gets to move to
nice.
A better place. And he's had a slip up here, there.
Sure.
However, he has not trashed his unit. He has not lost his vehicle for driving under the influence. He's built that relationship with his son and got to make a relationship with his grandkid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at that as a huge success.
Yeah, that's a very big deal.
Just sometimes takes that one time just to talk to somebody raw and uncut.
Mm-hmm.
The way they need to hear it. Real. Just kept it 100% real.
Nice.
And he called me and the provider the dynamic duel. Not duo, but duel. Yeah. He would send in Christmas cards, and this is what he would put on there. D-U-E-L, to a dynamic duel. He said it was like we were dueling with him to get his stuff together.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So, again, going way back, what was your first experience with being unhoused like? Like, how was that? After you got out of it, how did you approach things differently with people in this job?
It was kind of scary because, like I said, I had my kids. So, I deposit them at different houses or family houses or wherever I could because so they wouldn't have to be outside. Mm-hmm. So they always had a roof. Okay. One way or another. And I was just kind of high, so I was running the streets anyway. So I guess it really didn't matter to me at first. Then the reality of the situation set in, and they're like, "When are you coming back over here to get us?" And I don't know. Gotta get it together. So then I got it together, and then I got worse into it, got back into it. Right. And I think that's part of what I tell folks now is it's okay that you slip. Mm-hmm. It's a part of your story.
Yeah, it's the recovery.
Can be a part of your story. Mm-hmm. You can slip, but consecutive days do happen. Yeah. Consecutive years can happen. Consecutive decades can happen. This year in December will be my second consecutive decade. Yeah, and I'm excited about that. And so that's what keeps me going now. And I love NA for what it gave me back. Mm-hmm. NA will tell you I gave it to myself. However, grasping onto the folks in the program until I can grasp a hold of myself was what I needed. And so, I try not to be that person who preaches at somebody, but I will drop that seed. Sure. There's meeting schedules online. Yeah. You don't have to go in person to meetings anymore. They have online meetings now.
That makes sense. Nice.
I mean, I prefer the in-person.
Of course.
I get enough of meetings online at work. But I still participate in NA and camping, women's camp out. So, cool. Women who are struggling, none of us like other women when we don't trust other women. When you're unhoused and you're getting high, and I have an amazing relationship with lots of women now. I go to the camp out and there's over 100 women who, are happy to see me, and I'm like, really, me? So if there's a men's camp out, there's, clean and sober softball. I've been playing for 13 years. Nice. So your life doesn't have to stop because the drugs did. There's things to do, there's activities, there's fun, they have NA cruises, they have clean and sober this, clean and sober that, conventions, all kinds of stuff. And so if what you're looking for is people, fun, something to be a part of, it doesn't have to include drugs, which ultimately lead you to outside. Yeah. The other reason is financial situation. I wasn't working, on welfare, and, rents go up, welfare goes down, and, so that brings on depression, that brings on anxieties, and then what do you do to fix the depression, anxiety?
More drugs.
You get into the drugs, and the drugs mask all of that. What I didn't realize is when I sobered up, all that stuff was still going to be right there.
Yeah, exactly.
But just now compiled and worse. Right. It's already just one step at a time. Yeah. You have your home now. Now how are you going to you're going to take advantage of this home and allow other people to run how you do it in here and run in and out and potentially cost you your home? Or are you going to go this way and do some self-improvement?
Sure.
So I went the self-improvement route, thank
Nice.
goodness.
Thank God. Yeah.
The second time around. Yeah. And now I'm here.
Wow. What advice would you give for anyone listening, let's say, that wants to get into this industry, and or people that are unhoused that want to just get out of their situation?
If you want to get into this industry, you have to really want to help somebody. The pay isn't always the best. It's not. So you have to really have the drive for what you do. The love of your job makes the pay worth it. The love of what you do makes it not a job, but an activity that you get to do every day.
Yeah.
So if you're just in it for a career for money, this is not the job for you. But if you have that compassion for people and you want to see better for people, either end of the spectrum for this industry is, where you should go. Whether it's services or the housing side.
Okay.
Just working with people to help improve their situations and themselves. To get out of the situation, you have to want to. You have to want to, and then you have to make the hard choice to do it. It's not an easy choice, and it's scary because it's unknown. You're going into something, situations that you don't know. But if you're afforded the opportunity to get housing at a very low to next to nothing, then take the resources that you have, go back to school, go to a job training, volunteer somewhere, to senior center.
That's a good idea.
If drugs are a part of your reality, get involved with Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. If they're not and you're depressed because somebody in your life there's Al-Anon, there's Nar-Anon, that help folks with that. Counseling. I know there's a stigma around counseling. I've been in counseling for the last 15 years.
Do you feel that particular stigma is reducing recently in the last decade or so?
I do. I think so.
Yeah.
It's still there, but, now when somebody says I see a therapist, they're like, oh, wow, are you Looney Tunes? Because no, I personally have been diagnosed with chronic severe depression. Now, with the counselor and with an emotional support animal, I have been medication-free for the last 10.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
wow. Congratulations.
It's all in how much you want to invest in yourself.
Sure.
And I chose to invest all of me into myself. Because if I'm not going to do it, who is?
Hi again. Thanks for listening. If you know of any unhoused individuals that would like to be interviewed, or you would like to submit an interview yourself, please reach out to us through the website, understandingtheunhoused.org. Click on the contact button, send us a quick message. We'll get back to you as soon as we can and get things moving. Also, while on the site, if you're feeling generous, please click on the donate button. There is a very low overhead for this podcast, but there are costs involved, especially when Wendy and I go out to the unhoused community. We always want to have supplies with us, and funds are always welcome to help that along. Thanks again for listening. I hope after hearing these stories, you will have a little more compassion, a little more empathy, and a better understanding of the unhoused.